Okay, so we're going to start off today by creating a new design. The first thing I'm going to do is go through and switch over my default grid to the type of 3D printer that we'll be using here. So I'll update the grid. And then I'm going to start off with a square feature. We're going to try to build a bridge. I'm going to use the rulers here that it provides to me to kind of get something specific that I want as far as the sizes. I'm going to do about a 2mm thickness piece. I'm kind of thinking this as like a piece of prefabricated steel, where I'm going to sit and cut out the pieces on my 3D printer first. And then I'm going to design a few other features to it. I'm going to bring this right down to the grid so I can kind of see where that's at. And I'm going to make it exactly, we want it to be a reasonable little bridge, so we'll make it exactly 5 centimeters tall. And lengthwise, we'll make it exactly 20 centimeters long. So this is all in millimeters, so that's just giving us some features here. And then we're going to do a cookie cutter type approach. So we just said that this piece is 50 millimeters high. We're going to leave ourselves about 10 millimeters here at the top, just to kind of have almost a handle for whoever wanted to walk across our bridge. And since we're going to do that, we're going to make this little disc here about 80 millimeters in diameter. So we're going to come here 80, there's 80. Then we're going to grab that, bring it up let's think about this. If we wanted to go there, we'll just grab this and kind of position it. I'm trying to use the rulers. So one trick you can do in Tinkercad is you can hold down the shift key and the right arrow key, and you can move the entire plane over, so you can kind of set where your camera position is on this so you can see it a little better. That sometimes helps you when you're trying to snap these pieces right on the grid, which is what I was trying to do there. By doing that, I can theoretically bring this down to where it's snapped on the grid here. And it looks like I need to be a little further down and kind of see through this. And actually, we can see through this better if we make that have a hole. So that's one way we can kind of do this. Because I want this to be right there, like so. Now I'm going to make that a color again. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to copy this and paste it. I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to convert this into a hole. And then I'm going to hold down my shift key. Well, I'm going to click on my piece that I'm trying to cut into, and also I'm going to hold the shift key, and so I click both of those. I'm going to group them. When I group them, that's actually going to cut out that piece there. So I've kind of built my little sidewall here that I want for my bridge. And I'm going to turn this into a hole again. I'm going to drop my second piece down. I'm going to hold my shift key down and kind of move over my perspective here so I can see better. And I'm going to bring this again right there to that grid, just like so. I'm going to give that some color, make that a hole. And again, I'm going to hold down my plate and my hole that I've designed here and select both at the same time and group them again, and that should cut a second hole in there. And now I kind of have a couple little spans right here for my bridge. I want it to be evenly spaced, and so I'm going to cut out a piece right here as well. I'm going to rotate this around, hold the shift key and the right arrow key, make that a hole just so I can see through it. So I can bring this right up to the grid again. Stretch this out. Make that a hole. Make this solid. Now I'm going to click on this and this at the same time, group them, so I merge it, and I have the side piece for my simple bridge that I'm building here. And so that's just the template that I'm using for the side. The next thing I want to do is grab this piece and move it out of my way. And I got to think of how wide I want to make this bridge. I'm going to do the same thing again. I'm going to build a little flat piece on here. I'm going to hold the shift key, right arrow key, drop this down till again it's just 2 millimeters thick. And I'm going to stretch this out a little bit just so I'm working with another piece of steel. Going to again grab my cylinder, and on this piece I'm going to make a little bit different of an arc. I'm going to make this one about 30 millimeters. That might be too wide for my bridge. I'm going to make it 20 millimeters wide. Maybe 15. And only about 10 this way. Then I'm going to move that down so it's on the grid. Bring my piece of metal down so that it's covering just about there. So I've merged the two pieces together. Now this should be about 17 wide. I'm going to leave myself a millimeter on each side. So if we back off, that should be 17. And I'm going to leave myself here about a millimeter above. So I've got a little brace piece right here. Now I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to copy this. I've got to first turn this into a hole. Oh, wrong piece. I want to make that a hole. Make that solid. And select both at the same time and group them. So now I have some other little brace pieces that I can use on this. Now the only other thing that's really left to do is figure out how I want to orient these to merge them. So I'm going to hold the shift key down and the right mouse key, and we're going to rotate this around 90 degrees, and then we're going to bring it up so that it's right sitting on the base plane, just like that. And then we're going to rotate it another 90 degrees, like that. And we're going to move these like so. And we're going to space these about 1 centimeter apart. Oops, not like that. I'll leave that at 2 millimeters thickness. I'm going to grab the whole piece and just move it. I'm going to change my perspective so I can see things well, make sure I have this positioned where I want it. And I'm just going to put that right like that. Now I'm going to copy by hitting Control C and Control V. And I'm going to make another one. I'm going to hit Control V again. I got to think how far I want to separate these. I'm probably going to, this is a centimeter here. So I think if you go every few centimeters, it'd probably be just fine. So what we'll do is we'll go every 4 millimeters here. So that's 4 millimeters, 4 millimeters, 4 millimeters. If we wanted to, we can go hold that one, hold the shift key down, shift key down, shift key down. We can group that. We can copy and paste. Now I don't have to sit there and do it each time. I can just grab the entire thing, move it down another 4, like so. Copy and paste again. Oops. And again, we can do this because it keeps snapping us to that grid. So it's going to kind of hold us in place where we want to be. Our perspective's getting a little skewed off. We're just going to hold that shift key over and rotate this a little bit. And again, we're still about 4 millimeters between all of these pieces. If I wanted to make my life even easier, I could go Shift, Shift, group that piece, copy and paste it. Again, I'm making sure I'm still 4 millimeters separated each time. Probably can do one more paste. Copy and paste this piece over here. And now they're all evenly spaced. The only real issue we have is, do these cover the whole range of our other piece or not? Because we probably, again, holding down the shift over here. So it looks like we have a little bit of space on either side here. So I've got about 1 millimeter of extra space on here. I could make this more precise so that it covered exactly the distance if I really wanted to, but I want to keep these kind of evenly spaced. So I'm going to move this out of my way a little bit. I'm going to do a couple of other things here. I'm going to grab this piece, that piece, that piece, that piece, that piece. I'm going to group it just so that I can bring this up. Again, if you look at the distance on this, this should be 50 millimeters. So this right now, height-wise, should be 6 millimeters. So if we want this to go right up to the top here, then we want to go up 50 minus 6, so 44. I'm going to go 42. I'm just going to bring this up till I hit 42, and I'm going to leave this kind of floating up there in midair. Actually, I probably went too high because I probably didn't take into account. That's 42. Well, we'll look and see. We can adjust this after the fact. Now we're going to take this piece and we're going to do the same thing. We are going to rotate it 90 degrees and we're going to bring it up. Again, I need to kind of see where the plane here is. So I'm going to change my perspective a little and just drop this down until we hit that plane. It looks like right there we're cutting through, but I'm going to have to really get down here and look. Now it looks like it's right on the plane. So that looks good. So I think we're actually quite close to having this ready to go. I'm going to grab this piece and I'm just going to shuffle it over until it merges with my bridge. So I'm going to bring this over 1, 2, so it's in, and again I'm going to hold the shift key down, just kind of change my perspective a little bit because I want this to be in about 1 millimeter on the side there. That should be kind of evenly spaced on both sides. I'm going to copy this and paste it. Going to grab the second piece, bring it over back to about right there. I'm going to back off from it, kind of look at it from above and see if I've got these pieces even. Kind of looks like we're a little off on the right hand side here. So we'll pull this back one. Oops. Change our perspective again so we can see things in here a little bit better. I still need to pull that to right there maybe. We can test and just see how close these are by putting another box in and seeing if these match up. So if we just make that a different color, we ought to be able to see. So that looks like they line up really good, so we can just delete that box. That's the makings of our bridge. The only other thing we would need to do is have a flat piece over the top of it. That's the last piece I would design. Probably just make this about 1 millimeter thick. I do want it to be the length of our bridge. So I'm going to grab this here and just stretch it out. And drag it until it's the exact same length as the rest of our bridge. And then I'll bring it in here and make sure that it fits. The only other thing we should need to do is bring it up so that it now matches our trusses. And we have the workings for an initial bridge. We might do some other fun things with it. We could put in some simple bars here to kind of hold everything together where these pieces come together. We could even hollow out some of the pieces in here if we really wanted to. There's no reason to have a solid piece of steel, but this gives us just a basic initial design to work from. And so we're going to start with that and save it and maybe make some additional manipulations on it from here. So this gives us the startings for our bridge.